Well, Kieran Lagabiro, Adam.
Kieran Lagabiro to you, Paul.
Yes. Well, there's already speculation as to what the show's going to be. Is it a Raiders heavy show? Yes, I can say yes, it will be. This is hilarious. If the thumbnail's anything to go by, I don't think today's the day for Death on the Nile chat. Well, I was going to address Death on the Nile comedically a whole bunch of times up till now. It still ran out of time for even like the throwaway, which was going to be you, Adam, saying like, Paul, tell us about Death on the Nile. You've been talking about that. And then I just go, it's all right.
It's all right.
Then we go on to something else. Las Vegas Raiders. No, we're talking about a winning product today.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's another episode. We spent a half hour on Journey to Shiloh. Listen, how dare you, sir? And Indiana Jones and the Las Vegas Raiders. If you know anything about the rebranding of this franchise, but well, yeah, we have an announcement about movie nonsense. Adam, you said nothing yet. Do you care to chime in?
I've said nothing yet, except they may notice that our background has changed.
True that.
That might be a hint of what we're going to do here. We got a little behind on another project that we were involved in, that we started and then got behind in, owing nothing to anybody but ourselves, which is the Ford Fiesta. And in the process, we were able to stay every week on Monday Movie Nonsense. And we said, we probably wouldn't be as far behind on Monday Movie Nonsense if we, or with Ford Fiesta, if we perhaps took some of that time. Paul, do you have a full announcement? I'm already leading into the announcement.
That's it, pretty much. Monday Movie Nonsense will now be converting to the Ford Fiesta. So
live!
Tune in here. Tune in here every Monday at 3. And instead of a pre-recorded show about the Ford Fiesta, we're going to record it right here. So you come in here, you're basically going to get a comedy show. You're going to get tons of Harrison Ford news, and then you're going to get tons of talk about the movie in question. And right now, we've covered Harrison Ford's 70s, and we're just kicking off with the 80s. If you follow the Ford Fiesta, you'll see that The Empire Strikes Back was the last episode we put up with guest Chance Ellison. So please tune into that to hear Chance rap with us about what makes many people's favorite Star Wars movie and favorite movie of all time. So many guests we've talked to on our shows over the years say that Empire Strikes Back is just simply their favorite movie. So that's a great episode. And that leads us to Raiders of the Lost Ark. So that will be today's film we're covering on the Ford Fiesta. And David McKay, thank you for watching. Will we get the latest news on Harrison Ford from the Daily Mail? That does seem to be the source for stupid news about Harrison Ford.
But now that we're doing it live and we're doing it every week, it'll be newer and stupider from the Daily Mail. It'll be right on point. The second he goes to a store and buys the gummy bears, if that happens on Sunday and we're here on Monday, we're going to be reporting on that immediate news about Harrison Ford fixing his bicycle and taking it to Santa Monica.
Immediate stupid news. You'll get it here. Oh, and Maddie knows what he's talking about, right? So I think you live in the source of the Daily Mail. Right? It's a UK rag, right?
Mail.
So, yeah. And you'll get to know how tightly Harrison Ford's shirt is fitting, all the dumb stuff, courtesy of Daily Mail. So just to recap, if you haven't caught the Ford Fiesta, here's what we're going to get on this show. At the top, it's what's new in the world of Harrison Ford, and we'll talk about this date in Ford history, and then we'll recap the film, and that's where the comedy comes in. Adam and I just doing some crazy writing about each week's movie, and then we bring in a guest or not. Sometimes we haven't always had a guest, but a lot of them now that we've started the show are chiming in saying, "Oh, can I be on the blank show? Or can I be on Air Force One? Oh, can I be?" And no surprise, Sabrina Ramirez said, "Can I be on the Sabrina episode?" Yes. I do believe she was named after that film. So, there's a lot of that stuff to talk about, and we'll talk about how Harrison Ford is in this or that movie. Mm-hmm. So, speaking of Journey to Shiloh, that's another thing I can recommend. I call the first 5 or 6 episodes of this series the most fun you can have with a movie you've never heard of.
Yes.
So the first, the pre-American Graffiti movies that Harrison Ford was in, what are these movies? So we go to great lengths to tell you, and have a lot of fun with those, whatever they are, movies. So the question is, do we have a guest today? Yes, but
We
no.
do.
It's a pre-recorded segment that will end up in full interview when we do the final product, because we're going to record the top half of the show today. The second half, as I mentioned, is the interview. Since it's pre-recorded, we'll play some clips from it, talk it about, take your comments, and have fun with that. But you'll hear the full interview with our guest when the finished product comes out. And that guest is none other than Dan Murrell. So it's a trio of Raiders of the Lost Ark loving folk on this show. So if you don't know Dan Murrell, although many of you probably know us through the Movie Trivia Schmodown and therefore know Dan Murrell,
Yeah.
He's got his own YouTube channel where he reviews movies and has great takes on everything, and is a real legit critic too. Like, he's a member, if not the president of the Hollywood Critics Association or LA Critics or something like that. He's up there with some of the big companies, and has great takes and is legit. So, Adam, a couple questions for you. Do you have that last clip to put up? Yay, nay?
Is that this date in Ford history?
Whatever other music you have. If you don't have it, we'll just put it in later.
Okay, hold on. I got one exporting right now.
Yeah, so this will be some of the show. Also, behind the scenes fun.
Well, that's the other thing too. Is we're going to show clips of our interview with Dan, but then you go to the show and we did an hour with him, I think.
Yeah. That's going to be tough to finish trimming that down because there was a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone would complain if we just put the whole thing up there, of course.
Exactly, right. And so if you like Dan Murrell, then you'll also love Mara Kanapik, and later you can catch her on an episode. And I won't even tell you what the movie is. Later on, you'll just find out it's still within the 80s. She came on and was a guest for that, pre-recorded well in advance. And then next week is Blade Runner. So it's a good time to come into the Ford Fiesta. I mean, the 80s Harrison Ford was just Empire, Blade Runner,
right?
Raiders, Jedi, Temple of Doom, Witness. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I think we chose the right time to switch the format over launch for doing it live and everything. But everyone's missed out on us doing it live. Journey to Shiloh.
Yeah.
Apocalypse Now with Kaiser. Yeah, that would have been a good live one. But
and the other thing I'd say, Adam, is can you turn your audio up just a hair on the mic?
On the mic?
Yeah. Okay. Sounded good before, but now I'm not sure we're at the same level.
Well, Paul,
the outside producers care to chime in on the chat. Do we both sound okay?
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Any better? Here's the issue. When I opened up GarageBand, Paul, it tried to take over this mic. So I think GarageBand is changing what I sound like. Because for anybody in the and then put that into the podcast.
Oh, I was recording on QuickTime. I probably want to record on.
Well, maybe not, because I think GarageBand's going to take over the mic. Because if I sounded different, here I'm going to keep talking. I'm going to shut down. Sorry, everyone. This is also part of the thing now.
That's part of the first one, hopefully, and then we get.
Oh, I mean, also if we have to do a second take of stuff or whatever, I mean, you're just watching the recording session. So yeah. I'm going to keep talking and quit GarageBand and tell me if the audio changes. I want to know if this is messing with it.
Okay.
So, Paul, Journey to Shiloh is a great movie, and what we all love about Journey to Shiloh. I'll shut down. Am I sounding different?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think maybe just there needed to be more audio.
All right.
It sounded fine earlier. We got on here, and I don't know why it sounded a little quieter.
That's cool. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure, because GarageBand initially muted me over here and then said, oh, your microphone's in use and blah, 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 blah. So I just want to make sure that wasn't it.
All right. Well, I'm going to open GarageBand.
It's going to yell at you.
Is that right?
No, maybe for a second. I mean, I think all I had to do was just go unmute. It just muted it while this took over and tested the system or whatever. And I'm using narration vocal, Paul, just so you know.
As am I.
Okay.
Check. No, it's recording. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Then we'll pull all this stuff together, and it does. There's a little bit of difference.
Is there?
Yeah, on my end. I don't know if it doesn't sound different to you. That's fine. Maybe it's just on your end as well. Yeah. It's a little more vibrant, a little more echo.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But all right.
We'll see.
So,
We'll have to do this whole thing again after the show's over.
yeah, but the cool part is this is an audio podcast, but for you guys tuning in to hear us record the audio podcast, we've added video to all of our drops that we normally play. So there's a show happening.
Yeah, and that's usually not the case. Paul and I usually record the script, and we go find all those clips later, and we're like, all right, and thanks to Paul, I had guests in town. Paul's like, I pulled all the clips. I'm like, all 80 of them? So we are, I'm sure as our audience knows, we're a pretty clip-heavy show, even when we're just farting around here. We have retired a lot of our drops because it'll get packed up with the...
Yeah,
I'm sure somewhere he said the new phone books are here, and we'll be able to replace that exactly.
Yeah, but he did say it's true, and maybe we'll get that.
It's true. Yeah.
All right, shall we begin?
All right, so you got the whole thing there. All right, folks, we're gonna head into the script, and then afterwards we're just gonna screw around and talk in general. Probably won't be a part of the podcast, and then we can get a little more interactive. So thank you.
Yeah, it'll stay up on YouTube as a fun, sort of behind the scenes thing.
Right on. All right, let me minimize this here. And Paul, are you recording on GarageBand?
I am.
Okay.
Oh, it's so exciting. A new venture. All right. Then I don't believe there's even anything to play until after we start yapping. So, Adam, when you're ready.
It's not the years we've taken to get to 16 Harrison Ford movies on this show.
It's the mileage. 15 years of Ford movies so far. But we want to finish this thing by the time Indiana Jones 5 comes out next summer.
Whoa. That's 39 more years of Harrison Ford movies to get through. God, we better haul ass. It's the Ford Fiesta. Yahoo! Welcome to the Ford Fiesta. I'm Adam.
And I'm Paul Freeman Preston.
Joining us later in the show to talk about Raiders of the Lost Ark will be the head of his own YouTube channel, all about movies, film critic and friend of ours from the Movie Trivia Schmodown, Dan Murrell.
A movie so massive, we need to bring in the big guns. Dan is a real movie fan, so this will be great.
And if we have to tell you what Raiders of the Lost Ark is about, why are we even friends? But you may have noticed recapping movies gives us a chance to roll out a ton of jokes, and we're not going to deny ourselves any of that. But first...
Right. Harrison Ford news. What's new in the world of Harrison Ford? Okay, well, this is what's new. Harrison Ford, James Mangold, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge premiered footage from Indiana Jones 5 at D23 Expo. There was also a show floor display with costumes and storyboards. And one of the coolest parts, of course, is that Harrison Ford got emotional presenting this footage. Right when you think the guy doesn't care about any of these projects, he's high all the time or whatever, he's like wants to kill his characters off. He's talking about how this movie has heart, and he felt that Phoebe Waller-Bridge was a lot to do with that. Pretty cool presentation, and people in the room, without it being on the internet yet, got to see footage.
Oh, man. That's just amazing. I mean, just seeing even the poster, just the image of him. Like, you sent me, someone caught a shot of him in the streets, like, just dressed in the costume. I'm like, it's just so exciting. It's so exciting. We're getting a new Indiana Jones movie, Paul. We decided to do this show at the right time and just got a little behind.
Yeah, and so, look, I mean, great day to talk about Raiders of the Lost Ark when you're on the verge of, 42 years later, you're on the verge of another one. It's just crazy. And, of course, I think we both agree maybe there should have been another 3 or 4 in there, but we'll take what we can get.
I think sequels should be made every 3 years. It should be the law.
Well,
waiting around to make the perfect movie. You see what Friday the 13th did? They're like, I don't know, maybe the sun kills people? Just move on. Just keep making them.
yeah, he'll end up in space, right? That's where.
He'll end up in space eventually. They all do eventually.
Well, speaking of Harrison Ford's other massive franchise, Han Solo's original blaster sold for, at auction, the original blaster.
Wow. The
Take
real
a
one.
guess, Adam.
Not some fake crap.
Nope, not some junk. The original blaster sells for
$500,000.
You're half right.
I'm half right.
$1,057,500.
Oh my God.
Somebody really wanted that.
Screen used. I mean, people lay out money for they had to make 5 of those, and half of them didn't end up on screen. But this is the one that Harrison Ford picked up, shot you stormtroopers. That's the one, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I went to the Peterson Automobile Museum recently, and they had the DeLorean there. Okay, this is not any DeLorean. This is the DeLorean. I looked in the door, and there's all the places.
The actual 10 Commandments.
He can, yes. Right there in the dashboards everywhere where he can punch in the date. I mean, that's where he did. I look in the back. That's the out-of-time license plate. That's the flux capacitor. It's like there's something about being the thing that is part of iconic movie history. And someone thought that was worth over $1 million.
That's amazing. Well, of course. I mean, you or I would say, yeah, that's worth $1 million, but someone actually did pay for that. Yeah.
And since it's been a minute since we did our last show, this is news on this show. Anne Heche passed away. Of course, his co-star, Ford's co-star in 6 Days, 7 Nights. And supposedly he fought for her to be in the film. And you'll love this quote. This is vintage Ford. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn who you're sleeping with. We're going to make the best romantic comedy there is, and I'll see you on set. So,
all right.
She got the part. And then, of course, Wolfgang Peterson passed away, too, responsible for Air Force One. So,
yeah, we've lost some Harrison Ford compatriots.
But at 80, he's still going and still
going, but
getting it done.
How much did your heart skip a beat when you heard he'd crashed a plane into a golf course, though? You're like, no, I'm not moving on without Harrison Ford in my life. He's got to be here until he dies at 105. Yeah.
Okay, so. Then, of course, Googling Harrison Ford news gets you, express.co.uk says Ford uses a stylish accessory to look younger with gray hair. Oh. Adam, with grayish hair, you may want to keep this in mind.
Express.co.uk, they're breaking the news?
They say round specs with blue-rimmed glasses. That will give you a stylish accessory for your gray hair.
All right, round. All right, because I got to get new glasses here soon. Yeah.
But I feel like, thinking just wildly, kind of thing you think he wore in Age of Adeline. Am I picturing him in that movie with the goatee? And I think he had the round blue-rimmed glasses. And Daily Mail, Daily Mail, you never disappoint. Ford was seen running errands in Santa Monica in a black T-shirt weeks after his 80th birthday.
That's the news, baby.
Yeah, he didn't die after his 80th birthday. He went out and did stuff. Well, what a shock. So
Santa Monica. I think we just need to. I think we need to take the Daily Mail. We need to figure out. We need to coordinate this. Put this on a board. Figure out what days he's hanging out in Santa Monica. We just need to hit for a Saturday. See if we can circumnavigate somewhere around that bike store. And where was this?
This was in Santa Monica. Yeah. I think he comes down out of the Malibu Hills where he probably lives.
Right.
And gets his stuff done there.
In a black T-shirt. Black T-shirt in summer. See, this guy's a real.
Yeah. Next segment.
Is anybody enjoying this? Let's go check the comments. We'll cut this part out. I keep freezing. Yeah.
That's true. That's absolutely true. Yeah.
Well, that's why we're recording separately. So I'm gonna order a cord because I can't find mine, and then we need a 100-foot cord in case we do this in your garage, Paul. Am I frozen, or should we move on to the next segment?
Go on to the next segment. That's it.
Okay. Oh, that's my line.
Yeah.
See, you guys get to see how the whole thing's done here. Hold on, I'm just going to do a real quick check here, make sure I'm still recording and everything. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, one more quick recurring show segment before we get to the recap. This date in Ford history.
History.
Should I cover these, Paul?
Sure.
September 11th, 2017, Ford directs traffic after a backup in the Lincoln Tunnel, so he could get his Mercedes-Benz out of the Lincoln Tunnel. I've seen photos of this.
I watched the video. It's hilarious.
Oh, there's a whole video? Oh, that's awesome.
It's real brief, but he gets up. Let's go. Come on. Go. Move. Like he's like in full major move mode.
Yeah. You need someone to get out there and yell at traffic. That's who you want. That's awesome. I love that. I love that he actually flies. He's actually good at it. He's actually a leader. He's actually like heroic. He hasn't screwed anything up. He's not been Me Too'd, none of this stuff. And here he is, if need calls for it, Harrison Ford is going to jump out. He's going to direct traffic, get everyone home safely. That's the Harrison Ford way.
It's very funny you should say that, because those are the exact type of things I would write in fan mail to him when I was just a wee nip.
Yeah.
And I would send him off a letter and say, like, Harrison Ford, you're the best Han Solo and Indiana Jones. And I really love that you're just not in the tabloids, like you get, like the closest thing came to him being in the tabloids was when he got his ear pierced in the late 90s.
Right.
But back then it was like all these dummies are on in the tabloids for dumb stuff, and not Harrison Ford. He was just married and had kids and making movies and being awesome. And
he ain't making no sex tape. He's keeping his nose clean, keeping his family fed. Yeah. Great guy. Boy, I tell you, there's something we didn't realize separated us. You actually wrote a letter to Harrison Ford. I never wrote a letter to him, a fan letter. That's awesome,
I went to
Paul.
Pat McQueeney. Is now past former manager. But it got me things like if you've ever seen the streaming version of the show or anything movie guys are streaming, the Harrison Ford signed autographs behind me. I got one of those. And they were sent out, no doubt, by the manager as well. But it was cool. I mean, hopefully the word got to him that some kid thought he was cool because he wasn't, being a Madonna about everything.
Yeah.
So.
We got on her Christmas card list. So we just started getting Yoko Ono Christmas cards every Christmas. I don't know if she still gets them, but it's true. And on September 22nd, 1967, thinking about now, Paul, what year was Dead Heat in a Merry-Go-Round?
Yeah, it was a 60. It's a good question.
67 was Love.
Okay,
I bet like 66.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ben Ford's born. He's just getting going. 67. It's like right around the time he's shooting Love, or Love's coming out. They're going to see Love in the theater to see Harrison Ford punch Jack Lemmon, and but they couldn't go because they got a newborn baby. So anyway,
I remember Ford, he was thrilled to be under contract like people used to be back in the day.
Columbia
he would be on contract, to like put me in all these movies, give me these small parts. I got kids now, so
yeah.
I remember that was his comment about all that.
Well, yeah, that is what's the funny thing about those first 5 movies or so we've done on the Ford Fiesta is like, yeah, that's all the Columbia contract is like. All right, get into this Glenn Ford movie and say fire, damn it, fire.
And Ben Ford is the chef, I believe, right? So he had Ford's filling station out here in L.A., and I can't believe I never went. But thankfully, the only Ford's filling station that is left is in LAX. And one of the last times I flew last summer back to New York, I went to Ford's filling station. It had a great breakfast burrito. There's pictures of Ben and Harrison cooking together on all over the walls. And so I hope he's still doing it. I know he wrote books, but I hope he's continuing his chef adventure and open another place out here. It'd be fun.
I thought that was at a different airport. I didn't realize that's at LAX. Like, I'm going to get there early next time and go to Ford's filling station.
I can't tell you what terminal it was. I can't remember if it was United or Delta American. Yeah. Well, see, that's the problem. But look that up. Yeah. Make the extra time so you can walk across.
I thought that was somewhere else that you went there. Yeah. Okay.
Walk across the length of the of the terminal.
Yeah.
Just to check it out. Well, no, you have to get into their ticket.
LAX, but as you and I know, Paul, all of LAX is a location from Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round. So I always enjoy. There's a very general Harrison Fordness to LAX.
Yes, everyone I give an LA locations tour to from out of town said, well, you've seen one already.
Yeah.
when you flew it. That was from Airplane. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, that's from Airplane and Did He Know Merry-Go-Round and Blind Rage for anybody who watched our show last week.
All right, well, let's get on to the recap of our greatest movie of all time, in my opinion.
This is the greatest movie of all time. Paul, here we are. We decided to go live. Time. We've seen it together so many times in the theater. Paul, you've seen it 3 times this year in the theater?
Twice in the theater.
Twice,
well,
okay.
I count the outdoor screening as a theater screening.
Sure.
Not in the living room. So
no, you
in
can't.
fact, I can't remember the last time I saw it in the living room. I haven't watched it at home. There's been no need.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And that's when I should run into the ground. That should be on like every night just for a meditative, relaxation. God, this movie's so good. Paul, this movie's so good.
It's time for the recap. Music will go there. All right,
bam, 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 bam. All right, here we go. Do you like Jaws?
Do you like Star Wars?
Do you like Close Encounters?
Are you a late 70s child raised on books chronicling how those movies were made?
Are you 9 years old and only know the name of 2 directors?
Well, get ready to have your 3rd grade head explode because George Lucas and Steven Spielberg have decided to make a movie together.
Well, Paul, it can't get any better than that.
Well, save your breath, fella, because it's not just any movie like Star Wars. It's another swashbuckling adventure.
Okay, that sounds like the greatest movie of all time without knowing a single other detail.
Han Solo's in it.
What?
More accurately, Harrison Ford perfecting the pulp character of a charming rogue, a journey he began with Han Solo, who looks increasingly like a triple to the home run that is Indiana Jones.
Legend has it that Spielberg and Lucas vacationed in Hawaii to ignore the openings of Star Wars and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Spielberg expressed interest in making a James Bond movie, but George Lucas said, and, I'm paraphrasing, "Fuck James Bond! James Bond is bullshit! I'll show you where the money's at, bitch! Indiana fucking Jones!" Again, paraphrasing.
Our story begins in ancient Mesopotamia as Moses received the 10 Commandments from God and transcribed them.
But that's not what this movie's about!
True.
Harrison Ford plays Indiana Jones, world-traveling adventurer and archaeologist, traveling the globe to find rare antiquities.
But we don't know that yet, as a mysterious group makes their way through the jungles of South America in 1936. Their leader, shrouded in mystery until a classic serial moment, one of the crew betrays the leader pulling a gun that is whipped out of his... Oh, so here we go. Hey, now the sausage is made.
How the sausage is
But we
made.
don't know that yet as a mysterious group makes their way through the jungles of South America in 1936. Their leader, shrouded in mystery until a classic serial moment. One of the crew betrays the leader, pulling a gun that is whipped out of his hand by a whip lashing out of the darkness, followed closely by Indiana Jones. Stepping out of the darkness and into his close-up, Harrison Ford always makes an entrance.
Paging Mr. Ellis.
Fire!
Hi.
Han Solo. I'm captain of the Millennium Falcon.
And basically, the basically silent film continues to unfold as Indiana Jones enters a mysterious cave supported only by... The basically silent film continues to unfold as Indiana Jones enters a mysterious cave, supported only by Alfred Molina, unveiling booby traps, tarantulas, and bottomless pits threatening serial-style danger around every corner until they get to a golden idol. Protected by dozens of...
It's classic George Lucas, a world that begs the question, who are these people? And what's going on inside a pulp genre exercise? Yeah. Except this time it's executed by a master of pure cinema, Steven Spielberg, who builds the suspense to a crescendo until Indiana Jones gets the idol.
And then, like a roller coaster that clicks its way up the hill and finally crests, all hell breaks loose as Indiana Jones must now navigate all the traps that were meticulously laid out, triggering the landmines, falling in the pit, and being attacked by tarantulas, who push an enormous boulder on him.
A boulder, that may not be how that happened. A boulder is triggered to roll and seal the cave shut, chasing Indiana Jones down a narrow hallway, inches from crushing him, as Lucas and Spielberg mint a Hollywood highlight reel moment in real time right before your eyes.
Indiana Jones escapes only to come face to face with his nemesis.
Son of a bitch.
What, you thought this efficient storytelling machine wasn't going to punctuate that amazing action sequence without a nemesis?
Finally, this silent movie talks and shows off another strength. Smooth exposition.
Mm-hmm.
Do you wonder who this was and what his relationship to Indy was?
Dr. Jones, again we see there is nothing you can possess which I cannot take away.
And that's basically the first line of the movie. You can just feel this serial installment asking you to return next week to see how Indiana Jones gets out of this one.
Indy escapes and is chased by the native Jovitos, minting another iconic image of Indiana Jones, emitting clouds of tomb dust as he runs from someone trying to kill him. Like another pulp hero, Tarzan, Indy jumps and swings from a vine. It is only now that we hear the Raiders of the Lost Ark theme.
And if you weren't picking up on what Lucas and Spielberg and Williams were laying down, you do now. Crescendo, fly off into the sunset, and Shirley Bassey begins her song, Raiders of the Lost Heart. All right, not really, but that's where it would have gone.
Yeah. Chapter 2, Indiana Jones and the Mystery of the Top. Indiana Jones is a teacher. We catch up with him as he's teaching a class.
Web spiders catch and wind their strands around their victims and mummify them before they have them for dinner. Some even devour their own. But spider's not a bad fellow. In fact, in many ways, he's a truly extraordinary creature.
That's not from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
No. You got me. You're right. But, fun fact, one of Harrison Ford's 2 scenes in the 1977 TV movie The Possessed, which would air just a couple weeks before Star Wars hit theaters, began with him as a teacher writing a complex word on a blackboard in the exact same handwriting. So, check it out on YouTube and definitely stay for the end. Paul, would you like to watch the end?
Yes. All right. Well, the dean of students, Marcus Brody, tells Indy that some top men. Did that play entirely?
It did.
I pressed it twice. Let me try again. The dean of students, Marcus Brody, tells Indy that some top men from the government would like to talk to him. And at what has to be a record for exposition. 2 minutes later, we know what the Ark is, what the power holds.
Lightning. Fire. Power of God or something.
The phrase headpiece to the staff of Ra has entered our lexicon. And we know the stakes, the bad guys, and how to find the Ark.
Right. To find the Ark, all you have to do is dodge the snake in the entrance room and grab the whip. Run down one screen to the marketplace. Search all 3 baskets for the key, the gun, and the grenade. Wait 15 seconds and the medallion will appear in the same basket as the key. Go back up to the entrance room, use the grenade, run away. A giant hole will appear in the marketplace wall. Go through the hole to the temple entrance. Now you'll need 3 bags of gold in the Ankh. To make room in your inventory, drop the gun and the flute.
Okay, what the hell are you talking about? That is not how you find the Ark.
Well, it was in Raiders Atari 2600. Let me pick up my line again. I bobbled it. You don't have to play the drop.
Okay.
It wasn't the Atari 2600? There we go.
But in case the smoothest storytelling ever has you confused, there's a handy iconic map to sweep you along into the next scene as Indiana Jones flies to Casablanca, Nepal, where we are introduced to Marion Ravenwood in the middle of a drinking contest. And if you didn't catch that she was tough as nails, sharing a complicated past with Indy, she punches him within 30 seconds of meeting him.
Marion Ravenwood holds many grudges against Indy, so the 3,000 miles he's traveled. I guess she doesn't trust him.
Trust me.
But in classic serial fashion, danger is right around the corner in the form of Tot, a Nazi accomplice. But in classic serial fashion, danger is right around the corner in the form of Tot, a Nazi accomplice we saw trailing Indiana Jones on the plane ride. Tot is the opposite of Belloc's French gentlemanly, sniveling weasel villainy. Instead, Tot is a riff on Peter Lorre-style villainy.
Hello, my name is Boo. Let me finish. Booberry. My ghostly good blueberry-flavored cereal, Booberry, is part of this complete breakfast.
Tut is not afraid to use force, and just as he's about to say, "We have ways of making you talk," right as you can almost hear an announcer say, "Tune in next week for Chapter 3, Indiana Jones and the Goddamn Partner," a bullwhip cracks, and out of nowhere, cutting to the heroic Indiana Jones saying, "Let her go," and triggering Harrison Ford's first cinema fist fight.
It's an old school two-fisted action throwback. It's an old school two-fisted action throwback, just like Star Wars, except it's directed by the greatest director of all time. And if you don't think that, then clearly you've never seen the bar fight from Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's a masterful piece of choreography. The entire room shifts and every ugly stuntman in England to surround Indy.
Does he get hurt? Yes. Does he win? Yes. He's not Superman. He's just a guy with a whip and an incredible tenacity that will continue to frustrate his villains. He gains the headpiece to the Staff of Ra and a goddamn partner.
I'm your goddamn partner!
And before you draw another iconic line on a map, and before you can draw another iconic line on a map, we're off to Cairo, City of the Living.
Cairo, City of the Living. Told you. Indiana Jones has allies all over the world, like Salah, organizer of the greatest diggers in Cairo. So they're all set to find the Ark, but wait, all of the diggers have been taken. By who? Belosh, always one step ahead.
Son of a bitch.
As Indiana Jones and Marion walk through a Cairo marketplace, danger closes in the form of several corporate knots. As Indiana Jones and Marion walk through a Cairo marketplace, danger closes in the form of several corporate Nazis controlling a half-dozen local assassins and a Nazi monkey.
Up, cue pulled, but somehow not.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
All right, never mind.
Say Kyle. Show me any other movie you think is better than Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I'll show you a movie that's one Nazi monkey shy of being a masterpiece.
Finding himself unpestered for almost 15 minutes, Indiana Jones is attacked, leading to a Nazi nesting doll of action sequences and visual gags that stacks thrilling set pieces inside of a larger set piece of Marion's kidnapping, including a showdown with a giant sword-wielding villain that Indiana Jones dispenses with in one shot of his pistol. It's one of the biggest laughs of the movie because in the flurry of fists and whips and swords, we forgot Indy could just do that. And the whole sequence ends with a big explosion.
I want the movie to end with a big explosion.
As Marion is seemingly killed when a truck full of dynamite she was put on does what dynamite does. Indiana Jones slows long enough for Belloc to catch up and ponder the meaning of their life's work in one of Cairo's famous ponder lodges.
Lounges.
Not lounges, sorry. Indiana Jones.
Do the dynamite line again as Marion is seemingly killed. Right. You said like on the top of the dynamite or something.
As Marion is seemingly killed when a truck full of dynamite was... As Marion is seemingly killed when a truck full of dynamite she was put into does what dynamite does. Indiana Jones slows long enough for Belloc to catch up and ponder the meaning of their life's work in one of Cairo's famous ponder lounges.
But enough dawdling! The next morning, Indy and Salah are off to find the map room, as the steps laid out for the top men earlier are executed for an unconfused audience. In the map room, John Williams, who you might know as the legendary composer of Indiana Jones' theme and Marion's theme and The Basket Chase, already in this movie, turns in another masterpiece with an angelic choir rising as close-ups of the hottest actor of all time show the anticipation and elation of discovering the resting place of the Ark. It's a tour de force of filmmaking that, on the day, was just Harrison Ford looking at a floor.
The Well of Souls is not just a really good name for an Iron Maiden song, it's also an enormous temple once buried beneath the desert, but now uncovered by Salah and his crew. But since Indiana Jones never has a day that gets any easier, when the temple is open, they find the entire floor covered in...
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Which is the one thing Indiana Jones hates. Well, that and Nazis.
Nazis. I hate these guys.
Indiana Jones drops inches from a cobra which leaps to come face to face with him, minting another iconic Hollywood pinup. Just put that over there next to the others, guys. Okay, we've got to move along. There's just too much in this movie, and these are already too hard to write. Let's just say, the Ark, pretty big deal. So, that's all wrapped up. Indiana Jones gets the Ark and saves the day.
Why, Dr. Jones, whatever are you doing in such a nasty place?
Belloc!
Son of a bitch.
Belloc once again shows up to spoil the day, taking what Indy took so long to discover, only to then bury Indy with him. He really sucks. Will she survive? Will they escape? Come back to the theater next week for Indiana Jones and the Attack of the Bald Nazi.
Yes, the good news is Marion's alive and back in Indiana Jones's arms. The bad news is he's holding her because she just fell into a temple of snakes. Indiana Jones hatches a plan to cue the Indiana Jones theme by knocking a statue through the wall to a storage room for the dead body props from Poltergeist.
Indy and Marion escape the tomb to see that Belloc is going to fly the Ark out on a plane that is guarded by only one Frank Marshall. So they attempt to sneak aboard, only to be thwarted by a huge bald mechanic played by Pat Roach, who would make his appear... Oh, sorry. So they attempt to sneak on board, only to be thwarted by a huge bald mechanic played by Pat Roach, who would make appearances in the next 2 Indiana Jones movies in addition to 2 roles in this one.
Pat Roach finds out what you get when you fight Indiana Jones. Bitten, punched, sand thrown in your eye, and ultimately chopped up by an airplane propeller. All intercut with Indy rescuing Marion from a cockpit before it explodes when a rapidly approaching flaming trail of gasoline reaches them. Once again, it's twice as thrilling. It's a montage that would make Alfred Hitchcock high-five Sergei Eisenstein.
Is having more action than any other movie outside of Star Wars not enough for you? Well, Raiders of the Lost Ark would like to let you know that it's been holding back as Indiana Jones goes full Western hero by running down the truck. As Indiana Jones goes full Western hero by running down the truck on a horse, punctuated by that classic hit.
Jones boards the truck in one of the greatest action sequences ever filmed, that Wikipedia describes as Jones captures a truck carrying the Ark. Come on, man, add a little flair to it. Oh, actually, you know what? After looking at all that, after looking at all that goes down in the scene, I retract my statement. They did the right thing. So after getting the Nazis to practically shoot all the soldiers in the back of the truck, throwing dudes out of the door and windshield, running them off the road, and running them over, Jones captures a truck carrying the Ark.
Remember, this is the director of Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 1940. This is the director of Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind in 1941. But most accurately, it's the director of Duel, where Dennis Weaver is relentlessly chased by a truck for 96 minutes.
Jones and Marion then arrange transport to London aboard a tramp steamer, no doubt given a name by executive producer George Lucas, the Bantu Wind.
Okay.
Fun fact, the captain of the Bantu Wind was given a name by Ian Fleming, Katanga.
Unfortunately, Das Boot interrupts the steamer, but they can't find Indy. They take the Ark, they take the girl, they take what they wish.
That clip is missing too. I don't know why.
And decide whether or not to blow your ship from the water.
And away the Germans go, leaving Indy behind on the ship. Or is he? Eventually, Chocolate Mousse, from Top Secret, look it up, sees Indy and he's made his way on top of the German U-boat, which he travels on the iconic map to an island off the coast of Greece, where he dances on the beach and sings ABBA songs.
Really?
No. Lousy Germans, they ruin everything. And they're not done. Belloc wants to open... And they're not done. Belloc wants to open the Ark.
I'm uncomfortable with the thought of this Jewish ritual.
Could be worse, Dietrich. He could want to give you all circumcisions. But they end up having a parade. But they end up having a parade to the middle of the island, complete with the Ark, and marching, and flags, and costumes, and...
This is missing too. I pulled this clip, but it's missing.
I'm going to reread that.
Yeah.
Could be worse, Dietrich. He could want to give you all circumcision. He could want to give you all circumcisions. But they end up having a parade to the middle of the island, complete with the Ark, and marching, and flags. Hello. Then it's interrupted by Indy, and he's threatening to blow up the Ark with a bazooka.
I think it's a rocket launcher.
Not as much fun to say.
Good point. Indy's done. right? He's got dysentery. He's got pebbles in his pants from being dragged under a truck. He's seen one too many snakes today, so he's done. And he's just going to blow up the Ark. But Belloc makes a very impassioned speech that changes Indy's mind. That and Belloc showed Indy on a poor fly what he was going to do to him if he blew up the Ark.
The parade finally arrives at the canyon of the grand finale, where Belloc is dressed like Haji from Johnny Quest, ready to get those 10 Commandments out and ready. And, sorry. The parade finally arrives at the canyon of the grand finale, where Belloc is dressed like Haji from Johnny Quest, ready to get those 10 Commandments out already and grade God's penmanship. Unfortunately, upon opening the Ark, inside was only sand.
I don't like sand.
The sand sparks a prequel idea in George Lucas's brain, and also sparks the generators, causing them to explode. Or something does, as spirits seem to exit the top of the Ark and encircle the Nazis watching the ceremony.
Eventually, the beautiful ghost turns into my ex-girlfriend. And the swirling spirits transform into a hellstorm of fire and fury. For what happens next, we'll turn things over to Marion Ravenswood for a thorough recount of the event.
Ravenwood. Go ahead.
Oh, Ravenwood. Yeah. And storm of fire and fury. For what happens next, we'll turn things over to Marion Ravenwood for a thorough recount of the event.
That clip is missing.
Don't look, Marion. Keep your eyes shut.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like she missed it. Did anyone else see what happened? Diedrich? Tote? Belloc? Or looked at... Well, no one seems to have survived or looked at the events of that evening, which is good, because we really can't keep Dan Murrell waiting any longer.
To wrap up, we next see Indy back with Marcus Brody, arguing with the military brass about how the Ark should be studied.
That belongs in a museum!
They get handsomely compensated, but the government can't be trusted with handling a power that unpredictable. For an example of what Indy and Brody mean, see everything the government's done ever.
But out on the... with Marion, and they go for a drink.
You know, a drink?
And much like the Marvel movies, there's an extra scene tacked on at the end to prep you for future films. And much like the Marvel movies, there's an extra scene tacked on at the end to prep you for future films in the franchise. Rare's The Lost Ark ends with a sneak peek of an action set piece from Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Hey, and that's Raiders of the Lost Ark, everybody. All right. And we'll come out of that to introduce Dan, and we'll have an hour-long talk with him.
You see, because the voice of Booberry was very much like... Oh, sorry, I'm not going to explain all the jokes. Did anyone enjoy that?
Garth knows what you're talking about.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah, and others learned. How exciting, right?
Hey, that's awesome.
So, as we mentioned, there are... let's go through some of the comments we got while we were doing that. Let's see. Yes, Quan hugging Harrison Ford is one of the best things that come out of that weekend. It's a great shot.
God, that's amazing. Yeah.
And his sort of career renaissance is awesome, too. He's going to be in... what's the show called? Born Chinese American? Is that it? On Disney+? Plus?
Oh, I don't know.
Reuniting with Michelle Yeoh. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then he's going to also appear in something Marvel, I think. Wow. I can't. My brain is fried after all that Ford Fiesta stuff.
Yeah. It's a bit. Now, this is an interesting point here. Alan Smithy here. I should have said, at that time, his name was Indiana Smith, so on the beach it would have been...
That's right. Yeah. And I'll gladly help this out. Tell us why it is integral to the plot, why those Big Bad folks are... Actually, we addressed that, I think, with Dan. And,
we do.
Yeah, so that answer is there, but I'll give you a hint of it. My thoughts, at least. I hope I said this when we talked about it with him. But it all comes down to they're digging in the wrong place. So
yeah,
there you go. And and I also had a friend say, "Oh, I don't like that movie because they're stealing from the Aboriginal people." First of all, it says raiders in the title. So if you had a problem with people raiding something, don't watch the movie. And secondly, if he doesn't get it, the Nazis will. So,
yeah, I mean that's the real deal. It's him versus the Nazis. You can't have them have the power of God. The
armies of darkness will walk all over this earth.
Oh, I guess the Big Bang point is that the Nazis would have lost it anyway. They would have opened it and their heads would have blown up, and Indiana Jones could have just stayed comfortable at home. But then you wouldn't have got this whole movie. So maybe that version didn't test well. I always say that to people when they're like, why didn't so-and-so do this? And I'm like, because he would have died and maybe that version didn't test well.
Like Somewhere in Time is a good example of that. Couldn't we just show Christopher Reeve in the sweating in a hotel room for 2 hours? No, I think where we get to see the visions he's having of the past and this whole romance are much more interesting. So
much more filmmaking. I think.
Yeah.
I think the Big Bang people are talking about like an event if an event were to happen, but we're talking about a movie. There's that's
also they were probably going for laughs. So
well, sure, that's true.
All right, well, let's just play some of the clips from the Dan Murrell interview. If you want to know where Dan Murrell comes from into the that's a long way to go, but yes.
Hey, by the way, it is that time of year, and my local Target here has the full end cap of all the Monster cereals.
They got Fruit Brute?
Fruit Brute.
Yeah.
Which was gone for a long time. I saw that in Pulp Fiction. I was like, I never heard of Fruit Brute. They brought it back.
Oh.
No Yummy Mummy, though. Yummy Mummy was the one that replaced Fruit Brute for a while. They don't bring that time in my life. And I loved all these cereals. It's the cherry flavored one. It was very exciting to me.
Yeah.
And my body will not handle it, but I ate it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I was always excited because none of those cereals have fat. Woo! They make up in sugar.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, fat-free. That's
they are. They're fat-free. Yay. All right. So here's a clip of Dan at the top of our interview. If you just want to know where he's coming from as a guy, we talk about the...
Nice.
And William, I hope they have what you're looking for.
That's
here's one of our early clips with Dan talking just about this maybe being one of the perfect movies. Dan, I don't know what caused you to want to come to talk about this film of all the Harrison Ford.
Ouvre.
But is this your favorite film of all time? If not, what is?
Jaws is my favorite film of all time.
There we
the
go.
shirt that I love that we're all wearing Harrison Ford adjacent to this episode shirts. Jaws is my favorite movie of all time. I mean, there could be 5, honestly, but like just pressed to it. It's since I first saw it, it's been my favorite. So,
and you are correct. That is, I could easily say that's the greatest movie of all time. That's,
right. You put that in front of me right now, like that's the greatest movie.
I love it so much.
It's
I love Jaws so much.
It's perfect. It's one of a handful of movies. This, by the way, Raiders is another one, a movie that I would legitimately call perfect. When I say perfect, I mean every movie has its little things that, like technical errors or a little
things
tiny
we forgive
thing.
Generally,
right?
There's nothing we have to forgive.
But generally, like Raiders, like there's nothing that I have to be like, well, that I love the movie except for this one scene I might have done a little. This one plot point doesn't really resolve. Like
it was a different time.
It's they're little things, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. But I just mean as far as the movie itself, it's like Raiders, Jaws, Casablanca, The Godfather. Network. There's
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. It's just like you
Back
look
to
at it and
perfect.
it's like it's tight. It's just a tight movie,
not a line out of place.
Right.
And the classic, scripts aren't written, they're rewritten. That classic rewritten thing where you're led with breadcrumbs the entire time, and then everything just inevitably ends where it does. That's a perfect movie. It's like, of course, we are inevitably going to end up here. It's very satisfying yet surprising.
RoboCop is another one. I call RoboCop a perfect movie.
It's so excessive, but I guess it's perfect.
It is for the story it's telling.
It's got a voice.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of voice.
And we're back. I had to chime in.
Well, and
Back
what
to
he's
the
saying.
Future. Go ahead.
Well, what he's saying about RoboCop there at the end also is because at the end, all he has to do is say, "Dick, you're fired," and it deletes one of the reasons he couldn't arrest him. So, like the breadcrumbs, thing in RoboCop is really, really well done. That's what made that so satisfying too. It's like, oh, boom, everything's laid out to just take us
home.
What
a great line! And what a time to say that. Like he's such a Dick. You feel like there's mayhem. You're fired.
Dick, you're fired. Yeah, it's also a punchline. It's also a funny line, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, Back to the Future.
I'd like to check in with Dan because I haven't talked to him since Jaws was re-released in theaters. I mean, I'm sure he went. And what we thought of the 3D and everything else. It'd be fun to talk to him.
Oh, I invited him on the show, but he was busy that day. That we came back from that because he had a terrible time. You haven't heard the time he had?
I did hear that. Yes. No, I think we
he had the worst time.
You're right. I forgot. Forgot. And that, but what I forgot was when you told me that this was his favorite movie. Now that has such more impact. I thought he just went to a movie and it was a bad screening. I forgot it's his favorite movie of all time. Oh my God.
Paul, can you imagine going to a movie theater and having Raiders of the Lost Ark, and imagine you haven't seen it in a while. I mean, I don't know the last time you saw Jaws in theaters. I know IMAX released it like 10 years ago or something, but you know, and then imagine going to see Raiders of the Lost Ark. You haven't seen it in a theater in 10 years. It thinks it's MST3K. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah. Yeah. He made a point of tweeting all about it, and it was some sort of story. Good Lord.
Yeah.
But I went to the Motion Picture Academy Museum last week. They've got a brand new exhibit there called Regeneration and Introduction. It's all about black cinema, Adam, up until 1971, which is interesting because
that's really interesting.
Yeah, a lot of stuff you just never heard of.
Because everything we talk about is a renaissance or various renaissances of black cinema.
Yeah,
gosh, that's funny. When you say black cinema, my mind goes to post 1971 immediately, of course.
Yeah. So it was an interesting.
That's at the Academy Museum.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Miyazaki exhibit left, and the Almodovar exhibit, and this took over that whole top floor. There's a lot to cover.
Oh, I got to go see this because, I mean, you know, obviously I worked on black movies, a lot of it, but some parts of that montage are these like, you know, 1940s, 1950s, and you're just like Black Orpheus was one that pulled into the montage this year, and I think it was made in South America. You know, all black cast, a very local, like Argentinian movie or something like that. But, or maybe I'm not sure where that was shot. But anyway, it's like, how'd this movie come about? I'm just so fascinated by Black Orpheus because it's like, yeah, how'd this get made?
They take you all the way back to, you know, Sojourner Truth and Frederick Douglass. And I think, you know, he has a quote about movies starting up and he thinks it might be good, you know, for exposure for his cause. And they've got an issue of the North Star there, which was his anti-abolitionist or his abolitionist newspaper. Anti-abolitionist. His abolitionist newspaper.
I know what you mean.
And
I know his opinions on abolition.
To set context, yeah. Did you know he's alive, Trump?
Oh, right. That's right.
But yeah. So and then it takes you right on through everything. The poster, one of the original posters for the re-release of Birth of a Nation. I wanted to take a picture of it, but I just kind of never want to see it again. It's like a giant Klansman on a horse with a torch, like victorious. You know, it's crazy.
I know. They are that's the craziest thing about that movie is it's the greatest triumph of cinema at the time, but the cowboys and heroes in it are the KKK.
Yeah.
But it's edited and shot like the best version of the cowboys coming to save people, but it's all like a total racist message. It's nuts. That movie's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't there a monologue someone did about that's kind of famous about how they were the heroes? I can't remember. The KKK were the heroes. But,
yeah.
Black Orpheus shot in Brazil.
Is that shot in Brazil? Yeah, somewhere in South America, but it's like an all-black cast, and it's all like the Brazilian sort of dancing and everything. It's like most of the movie is like dancing. Like they have like a dramatic scene, and then back out on the street where there's like this highly choreographed, you know, like whatever their celebration is there, like the big-ass celebration. Yeah, pretty interesting.
And I remember why I brought it up because we went to Fanny's. My girlfriend and I there's a restaurant there that's sort of Fanny Bryce themed, and I'm glad they went sort of classy, high end with this place. It could have been like a family eatery diner, but it was the restaurant there was really nice, and the truffle hummus, stupid. And they have a martini called the world's best martini. Susan tasted it, took a sip, and went, "They're absolutely right." So anyway, go to enjoy those things.
Where's that at?
That's in the museum. It's at the Academy Museum. Fanny's.
Named after
But
Fanny
every
Bryce.
employee who came over to give us bread, to give us a drink, whatever, said, "Are you here for Jaws?" I guess it's the place to go before a screening that night at the Academy. And I was like, "Oh, I wish I just came to see this new exhibit." And
well, that didn't even occur to me that like that's just down the street from the Academy screening room. Well, not just down. Well,
no,
yeah,
they built the David Geffen Theater there. They show screenings there. They've got a whole. I haven't been yet, and they do have free screenings for Academy members or for museum members, but I haven't.
At the museum is where they do the Academy screenings now?
Yeah. Oh, they built a huge
brand new room,
special event venue space. They built a theater.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They've last award season. They started having some screenings there. I'm sure they'll have a lot more now that things are opening up even a little.
Is this
more.
where the Oscars are going to take place from now on?
No, but okay. So the rooftop of the 5th floor of the museum is where Her did her performance of the song from Judas and the Black Messiah at the opening of the Oscars a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
And so that was one of the first times people saw that space.
Yeah.
It's a big outdoor special event space with a beautiful view of Hollywood. And of course, I don't go to the museum without popping into the sound exhibit to see to explain how they layer sound in a movie, because they start with nothing, and then the sound recorded on site.
What scene
they add this, and they add what's that?
What scenes do they use?
No time to argue. Raiders. It's Raiders. Of course, it's Raiders. It's him exiting the cave and all that. So they show him. Now we put in music, and now we put in the Foley, and now we put in the dialogue, and now they record a lot of the dialogue.
And the sound of Ben Burt rolling his car in neutral down a construction site, right? That's the
there's split screen, of a mic hanging outside of a car rolling over gravel. That's your boulder coming down the thing. Yeah. So highly recommend checking that out. So there's some tie into Jaws, tie into Raiders, and a big stupid story about the museum. But anyway. Let's play another clip of Dan here. There's 3 good reasons, 3 good thoughts about why Raiders works. One from each of us, from you, me, and Adam. It was a good clip to play because it's just I talk, then you talk, then Dan talks. Here we go. So let's talk about why this movie works. And I'll give you the one reason I have to why Raiders of the Lost Ark works so well. And a lot of action movies have failed to do this in its wake. It is that they set up the rules right away. Brilliant. Well, first they introduce the character in a real fun way, and then it's right to the rules, right? We got the Ark. The Nazis wanted this. We're going to do the whole thing. Didn't any of you guys go to Sunday school? All this stuff, it's all there, but the great skeptics.
Power of God.
Power of God or something.
Power of God or something.
And then, once you do that, you can have fun.
Oh, I know,
as long as you don't betray what you've already set up. And that's it. It's that simple. And they do that over and over again in this movie. It's like we're having fun, but we haven't lost the fact that there are real stakes here. It's not just goofy. We're not smoking cigarettes or cigars and uploading a virus to the spaceship and having ourselves a grand old time after 2 billion people just died.
Yeah.
No, they really set up the stakes of what's important, have fun, and maintain both to the end.
Yeah.
Is there another reason this movie works, or an agreement with me? Anyone want to agree with me?
I'll agree
with you, definitely.
Yeah, but man, I got to tell you, that 2-fisted man of action sort of thing going on there of like, he's going to get this back because he's the hero. You can't stop him. He's going to until the last moment, and the action builds and builds and builds as he tries to get the Ark back. And, he's just so cut from movies. Marble, like he's carved out of all the great heroes of Hollywood. So you just extra want him to get his goal, and you want him to go through all the minefields to get there.
I mean, here's what I think works though.
And he's just making this up as he goes.
I think that's
why the human thing. Yeah,
that's why people love him so much. I think it would have been ezy for Harrison Ford to come in and just be like, "Oh, I'm going to be Han Solo again." I'm just going to play Han Solo. That's going to be my type. I'm going to be, an old school 50 star, and every guy I play is the same because I'm Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And that's not what, I've never been one of those people that's just like, oh, Han Solo and Indiana Jones are the same character. They're not the same character.
No.
And what I think people love about this character is that he is, he's in incredible shape, obviously. And he's smart, but he's not invincible, and he doesn't want to fight anybody. Like Han Solo. Han Solo's the guy that runs into a fight with his blaster, and he's just like, I'm going to take on the Empire by myself, and I can do it because I'm Han Solo. And Indiana Jones is like, I don't want I don't want to.
Yeah, he does that very thing in the plane. Let's go, American.
It's
He's like,
I don't want to, really? Come on. You just let me dig in the ground and let me get the thing and go home. And he plays that so well. He's not some macho guy that's he's not Captain America. He's just I don't want the Nazis to win, so I guess I'll go get this thing, but I don't want to. I want to.
It belongs in a museum. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I want to protect these things, and it's his frustration over the whole movie. That's why I'm sure we'll talk about it, but the whole having to do the improvisation with the sword guy works so well for the character, because you believe that Indiana Jones would just be like, I'm just gonna shoot this guy. I don't want to fight anymore. And that's what I love about the character. And I think that's why people love him, is because he is a Superman, but also he's relatable in the sense that I think people could be like, I would probably act the same way in that situation. I don't want to have to do all this stuff, but then again, I don't like Hitler, so I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, and that's the throwing the dirt in the eye sort of stuff, biting that guy. He doesn't square off and, box that guy, no, he's like, I just want to get the hell out of here. I want to get her out of that cockpit. Here's some dirt in the eye. That sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what am I going to say? Any of those things were wrong? That's all perfect. The greatest movie ever.
And was very much the conversation when pressed on it, when the Gray Man was catching so much shit by a bunch of people that watched it on TV and not in the movie theater, so I kind of understand it. But this is one of my favorite movies of the year, but it was that man of action thing that Ryan Gosling does is I'm going to win the day. I don't care what I have to go through with it, because that's who I am. I am the hero's hero of this movie. And Chris Evans in that is the villain's villain. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to get more villainous. I'm going to cause you trouble. I'm going to laugh through it. I'm going to be villainy. It's there's a lazy way to do that. And then I think there's the way that the Gray Man does that. There's the way that Raiders does that, where it's yeah, we're playing archetypes here. Don't confuse this movie with realism. I've always said that if anybody saw a realistic movie, they'd reject it out of hand, even though they ask for realism all the time. If you saw one, you'd hate it.
Yeah. I got to watch Gray Man again. It's probably 10 pages in deep into Netflix now to try and find it, which is...
Well, I told you, I went out to my local bar here one night. I don't really go in to talk to that many people, especially because I don't want to belly up to a bunch of people who are unmasked or whatever. But it's always usually based on, I walk by the door and I see what they're in the back, nobody around me. I'm just sitting. I watched Gray Man for an hour in there. I'm I love this movie. The dialogue can't be beat. Certain aspects of it just really can't be beat.
Well, we didn't talk much during our plot recap that it was based on the serials that Lucas used to watch when he was a kid, and Spielberg.
Yeah.
But we talk about it with Dan. So let me play a little clip of that.
We do.
This part, I enjoy this.
It's a good part.
I keep trying to move on, and it's great that I didn't, because it's just gem after gem about what's going on here.
One of the classic fun jokes of the movie Showcast, the old show from the garage, was when we wouldn't let you move on to a bit, and something kept recurring and recurring. I must have asked 12 final questions to Ted Raimi. One last question, and it just became funnier and funnier.
Yeah. This is just for me, but Lucas, he was in love with the old serials, and that's what we based this on, including one called Don Winslow of the Navy.
Love it.
Oh. Do you love?
What a great title!
Okay, the title.
Oh, I haven't seen Don.
It's the greatest title ever. Don Winslow of the Navy.
Winslow, Don Winslow of the Navy.
Quick, get the hero, Don.
Don.
That's the best.
Quick, get Don.
Where's Don? Don Winslow of the Navy. Get him in here right now.
It's I, Don Winslow.
Mr. President.
Don Winslow of which branch of the Navy, sir? Get me Don.
So into the characters then.
Everybody, Winslow. Oh, sorry. Nobody else know
of the Navy. All right. Well, speaking of Todd,
he's our favorite Don.
Don Winslow, I come to you.
I come to Don Winslow asking for forgiveness on the day of my daughter's wedding.
Don Winslow, someday I will need a favor from you. And on that day, I hope the battleship is under your control.
Francis Ford Coppola actually loved it too. They overdubbed Winslow with Corleone after they shot The Godfather.
Shot the whole thing as Winslow.
They thought that Don Winslow was a little soft, so they went with Corleone.
You'll face the wrath of Don Winslow.
Don Winslow.
Don Winslow, can you do me this favor? That's Michael Winslow. Sorry.
Sonny and Michael Winslow. Sonny Winslow. Fredo Winslow.
Fredo Winslow.
Would have been a different
Fredo Winslow's the one that does the sound effects. You broke my heart.
See, I knew that would get some wind. That's what a name for an old thing. But to think that spawned Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also funny that like the serial thing with Star Wars, like the Flash Gordon thing. It's just such an interesting doubling down on serial style storytelling again, and really mastering it in terms of like, you could cut this movie into 20-minute chunks and go, how's Indiana Jones going to get out of this one? Yep. And it's really elegantly done. When last you are the Michael Winslow of the show.
That's true.
I guess I'm the Tackleberry.
Let me tell you something.
I'm the Tackleberry. I'll be your Tackleberry.
I'll be your Tackleberry. I just found this while that was playing. There it is.
Where you got it? There it is.
I bet you it doesn't look like this.
No. I did. I looked it up as well. I want to see if I can find the theme song to it. Here's the serial, all 12 chapters. So, yeah. Don Winslow of the Navy.
I mean, outside of the uniform, I guess Indiana Jones could get in adventures like that. He'd blow up a ship and really piss off the villains.
Of course. Well, that's your favorite thing about Raiders, is just how frustrated he makes the villains. But that's what you want. Oh, Jones!
Yeah, right. It's constantly annoying him.
Jones.
My plane blew up. Jones. He knows.
Yeah, he knows.
But I left him in a thing to die with it. Jones. It's
Jones.
I did, but I didn't shoot him in the head right in front of me. That's my fault. It's my fault. Jones.
Yeah. And that's my favorite thing about the heroism in these movies. That's why I love superhero movies so much and everything. It's just like, they're just going to win the day. And it's like, what extents will they go to? How will they frustrate the villains? And that's sort of like the hero, the big hero, big villain, Batman, Joker, Spider-Man, Dr. Octopus or whatever. But like, yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Jones.
So if you're watching this, tune into the Ford Fiesta when it goes up on everywhere, pretty much everywhere. It's easy now to get on all these places for your podcast. So I put the podcast up on Apple Podcasts. It ends up going over to Amazon Music. It ends up going on to Pandora, Spotify, iHeartRadio, everywhere. And I even put up a video version of it, which is not exciting. It just kind of has our logo. But if YouTube's easy to handle and everyone can get to it. So, but whatever you do, if you're watching this, cut to about halfway through and hear the whole interview with Dan. So, see it. I'll probably put the visuals up of it as well at YouTube. So,
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, we should start putting clips like that on Instagram, stuff like that would be good too. But yeah, we do an hour of that on a different Harrison Ford movie. Which one? You'll find out soon.
Now, next week, then, Blade Runner. We'll get on here. We have the interview with our friend Dave Sachs, who's a longtime friend of the show, who appeared on our old Toad Hop stuff when we first met the Schmoes. And he's appeared in our live show and all sorts of other stuff. So excited to have him talk about it. Again, he wanted to talk about Blade Runner. I just heard word from Steve Schultz, longtime writer for the show. I had to tell him, all the movie nonsense jokes you've been sending, don't bother. If you still want to submit jokes, we can put them up on social and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But we're going to use Mondays for the Ford Fiesta. And he's like, can I talk of Age of Adeline? I'm like, done. If somebody wants to talk Age of Adeline, then yes.
That was funny, running into all our friends and going, what Harrison Ford movie do you want to talk about? And it's just what the random things that come out are pretty wonderful.
If we go according to we'll have Video Drew on, we'll have Brendan Meyer, Peggy Gubbins, Coy Jandrew. These are all people who've expressed interest in future shows. Adam Collins, Lon Harris. So the list is long of guests who will appear, and now it'll be faster than you expect. They won't be when we get to it. We hope to get Ford Fiesta out every week. Might be a little break in the middle of October when I'm out of town.
Yeah.
But then we'll get back on it.
Yeah. So the goal is to keep doing these a week at a time, keep the post-production down so that we can crank them out, and so that we'll meet the pace of seeing Indiana Jones 5, that this show will catch up to Indiana Jones 5.
Yeah.
And my theory is we won't quite make it, and like the week before, what I'm going to do is like 4 in a row, like doing like a telethon of just like the last 4 Harrison Ford movies or whatever, and get everybody in your garage and just do like Secret Life of Pets or whatever.
Secret Life of Pets 2, Call the Wild. There you go. Raiders needed to be an expanded episode.
Yeah.
Secret Life of Pets 2. I mean, it is Ford's first animated film, but do we need to spend an hour and a half?
Yeah, probably not. You're right. That's true. We could speed round like the last 4 movies, like just 1 hour on like Call the Wild. All right, next one. Just get your garage full of people and celebrate. And now it's time for Indiana Jones 5.
All right. What we won't have time for, is the Don Winslow verse. Sorry, but we will be back with Blade Runner. Any last words, Adam?
Did you ever
we know how
play?
it goes. Why does it go boo-da-doo-doo? Why does it? We know how it goes, Atari.
Why
would you have it go da-na-na-na-na-na-na? Like,
I think the 2.5 bit or 2-bit or whatever, maybe it couldn't handle that sort of like trumpet going down or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Did you ever play that game?
I never did play. Well, I played that game. Yeah, what am I saying? I played that game. I remember having to bust through the walls and doing that. They had it at the boys' club, I think, when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I didn't have an Atari, but I used to play it there at the boys' club. Pitfall, Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Venture? No, that was a stand-up game.
Venture.
What's the one? Adventure. That was like the
Right.
first game, right? Yeah.
Right. You're a square.
Yeah.
You're a square running around, and you pick up an arrow, and that arrow, the arrow symbol, and that's a sword, and then you kill dragons. Indiana Jones was so hard, so complex, and at that time there was no divide between kids playing video games and adults. So my parents played all the Atari games. They would have their friends over. There were times where we couldn't get to the Atari, and Mom played the Atari all the time. She had to win Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was so hard that she had to call Atari, and Atari had to tell her how to win Raiders of the Lost Ark. True story.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And they coughed it up.
They did. Yeah. That, I guess, I wondered if anybody had ever called before. I got to figure out how to play one of your, win one of your video games. There's no YouTube. There's no way to, now these games are too complex for me. I'm a little old, so I play a game and I'm supposed to win it. And I don't really care about winning the games anyway. I'm like, I just kind of run and drive a car over shit or whatever, or run around as a cowboy and shoot some things. Accidentally shoot some people in the town square, which is what I do in Red Dead Redemption all the time. Like I don't play it enough to remember what the buttons are, so the next time I inevitably mistake a button and then just kill somebody in the town square. But
I always like in Grand Theft Auto when you pick up a hooker and then drive behind a bush and you just see your health go up and your money go down.
One of the great politically incorrect video game moves of all time.
Yeah.
What if? Yeah. But yeah, Raiders.
All right, then that is all, folks. Sayonara until next week.
Until next week.
Yahoo!